Hello, my name is Anthony Snider. I'm a faculty member at UNCW in the Environmental Sciences Department, and I'd like to talk to you today about honeybees. Most of us know about honeybees because they make honey, which is delicious. I eat it every day, but most of us are also learning how important honeybees are for the foods we eat. About a third of the food that we eat in the grocery store is dependent on honeybees for pollination, and without that pollination, that food simply would not exist in the grocery stores at all. It's also important for the beekeepers. In fact, many beekeepers will move their bees thousands of miles during the year to pollinate things like apples and almonds. And in North Carolina, some of the foods that we're accustomed to, like watermelons and cucumbers and blueberries, all rely on honeybees for pollination. So the bees are really critical for our agricultural system. To encourage the bees to visit flowers, the flowers will make a really sweet substance called nectar. And as the bees go into the flower to get the nectar, they'll brush by the flower parts, and that's when the pollination occurs. When the bees collect the nectar, they bring it back to the hive, and they all work together to change that nectar into honey. So in essence, all honey is essentially concentrated nectar coming from flowers, which is one of the reasons that it's so sweet. Okay. I'd like to show you the inside of a hive to show you how complex the social structure is. And to do that, I'm going to wear a veil. And the reason being is that honeybees like to defend their colonies. They're worried that people will come or animals will come steal their food. And so they're likely to sting. And so I'll wear the veil to protect myself. I'm also going to use smoke, and this is a smoker. And although honeybees are very intelligent, they're hardwired. They respond to instinct. When I smoke them, they believe the hive is on fire, and they're going to focus more on collecting honey to carry it away and start a new colony than they're going to focus on me. So in essence, what beekeepers do is they trick the bees into thinking the hive's on fire, so they're focused on collecting honey rather than focusing on the beekeeping. So let me go ahead and smoke them, and we'll go ahead and go in the hive, and I'll show you some of the things that happen in the hive. So you can see them hovering around the front here. I'm going to give them a little smoke in the front, and then I'm going to lift this back part and give them a little smoke in here. Give it a second to work. And then I'll take the lid off and set it to the side here. Okay. The hive has several components. This is an inner cover that helps with pollination. And the bees are not naturally aggressive. They're usually very gentle unless they think I'm trying to steal from them or if I mash them. They really won't bother you unless one of those two things occurs. The bees will have a tendency to glue everything together. So I'm going to use this tool, it's called a hive tool, to break apart the seals so that we can go down into the colony and take a look at what they're doing. Okay, I'm just going to set this over here. Okay, and in fact, I'm going to take this first box completely off, and we'll look at the second box so we can get a better idea of what's going on. These boxes are called chambers, and this is how beekeepers keep their colonies. In the wild, they will go into trees and live in the hollow parts of trees, but it's very difficult for us to work with them when they're up there. And so beekeepers will keep their bees in square boxes. You give them a little bit of smoke. And it doesn't take much, and that'll make them think the hive's on fire. And then I'll go in and I'll use the hive tool again to lift out a frame and set it aside so I can start to work across. Now the bees will naturally build what's called honeycomb or comb, and they'll build it in a hexagonal pattern, which is the most efficient and strongest shape in nature. And they'll do this on their own. And they make the honeycomb out of wax that comes out of their bodies. It's really, really cool. This is what candles used to be made of. It's flammable, but bees don't have lighters inside the hive, so it's really not a problem for them. Okay? And I'm going to move across, and I'm going to get to a frame that has more bees on it so we can pull it up. This one here looks good. Okay. So when I bring this up, okay, you can see the bees walking around and working, and they're not really concerned with me because they've smelled smoke and they think the hive is on fire. So you can see how they've got their heads tucked down in the cells. They're trying to suck up honey so that they can fly away to a new place and start a new colony when they think this one's going to burn down. Okay, here's the other side. They're doing the same thing here, but there aren't that many on this frame. So I'm going to go, this is called a frame. And the beekeepers will, the bees will build their combs vertically in nature, but they're not very uniform. So we encourage them to build very straight combs by putting frames in the hive, and then the bees will build straight combs and we can move them around and look to see what's going on. Really, really useful as a beekeeper to be able to see what's going on in the colony by just lifting the frames out like this. Now, all of the bees that we're looking at so far are girls. And the vast majority of the bees in the hive are female. There are very few males, and they're only in the hive in spring and summer. They don't overwinter. The females will overwinter, but not the males. Okay. This, where it's covered in a wax coating all through here, this is honey from last year. And beekeepers leave honey for the bees to eat. They always make more than they need, and so we take some for ourselves, but we always make sure to leave them enough honey to be able to make it through the winter. And this is covered over with wax to make sure that it maintains the proper humidity inside the cell so it won't ferment. So I'm going to go down one more chamber and try to look a little closer and see if we can see maybe a male bee and maybe a queen. One female gets to be queen, and that's it. There's only one queen per hive, and that queen is responsible. Her only job is to lay eggs. That's all she does. She doesn't have to groom herself. She doesn't have to feed herself. She is taken care of by her attendants her whole life. All she does is lay eggs all day long until it's her turn to be rotated out and for them to make another queen. Okay. So again, I'm going to use the hive tool, and I'm going to break the boxes apart where they've glued them together, and just set this over here out of the way. Now these bees haven't had much smoke, so I'm going to give them just a little puff on the top, and see how they'll all run away. They're running down because now they think the hive is on fire and they need to prepare to go start a new colony somewhere else, which makes them ignore me for the most part. Do the same thing here. We'll take the outer frame out, set it to the side, and there's older honey on the outer frame that they haven't touched yet. Okay. And again, we try to make sure that they've got enough stores to last them through the winter. Okay. We give them just a little bit more smoke and send them down. Okay. On a cloudy day, they can be agitated. It's not very sunny today, so they're not as happy as if it were bright and sunshiny outside. Let's go to this frame here. Okay, so we have a lot more bees here. Okay, and if we look here, this bee here has pollen on her legs. Now they'll not only bring nectar back, but they'll bring pollen back and they'll feed that to their babies. That pollen is their protein source. So it's really, really important for them to do that. And I have not seen a single male bee in here yet. It's still pretty early in the season for them to show up. Kind of really wanted to be able to show you one, but I don't see one. These are all, every one of them is female. The part here that's domed over but dry looking, those are babies that have been covered over so they can finish the last part of their development process, pupation. And then I'll look briefly at one more frame. And here, just in case we can get a male, or maybe the queen if we're lucky. Okay, we have more brood covered over. But I am not seeing a single male. They're bigger. and they are blunt on the end rather than being pointed like all these girls are. Okay, that's a baby bee that's just been born there. She's still really, really fuzzy. There's another one. Okay, let me look briefly on the other side. No boys. No boys. Yep, there is one. You're right. Okay. Where'd he go? I lost him. No, that's a female. Yep. Okay. No boys yet in this colony. All right. So that's about all the time I have right now because I was asked to keep it to 10 minutes. But I really hope that you've enjoyed the look inside the hive. I was going to take the veil off for just a second, but I've got a bee that wants to get close to me. Okay. There we go. I think she's gone. So thanks for taking a look in the hive with me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions, you should contact the New Hanover County County Extension Service, and they can put you in touch with a beekeeper who can answer any questions, and they're happy to talk to you. Beekeepers love being in bees. They held me to 10 minutes because I'll talk all day long. But if you do have questions, do reach out to the County Extension Service and ask them to put you in touch with a beekeeper. All right, thanks a lot for watching. Take care.